Welcome, guys, to ILWPOD. I'm your host, Justin Wright. I'm welcome here today with one half of NDS, Rylie Jackson. How are you doing, man?
Doing pretty good, yeah. How about you, man?
I'm living good. Glad to talk to you. I'm glad to have you on here. Just staying busy.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what life's up, man. Otherwise, if you're not going busy, you're staying still. If you're staying still, nothing's getting done. So,
exactly.
and thank you for having me. I should say. I don't know if I said that before. So
Of
now that that's out
course.
of
Of
the
course. Thanks for responding. The wrestling world is not the easiest world to get into. So I appreciate the response because my DMs are littered with wrestlers that just haven't responded.
that's absolutely. I mean, to me, it's not the name of the game is markability, and you got to be able. The best way to market yourself, especially in 2024, is through podcasts, and it gives a chance for new people to hear your voice, just discover new people, you know, who aren't from Minnesota,
Yep.
So any way
Um,
I can try to reach more, is I'm always down for it.
Definitely. And actually I stumbled upon you from a friend of the channel. His name is The Real Drago. He also went to Ken Anderson's school, and
Hey.
he really didn't shout out much people. He was like, go to Ken Anderson's roster page, and he said message everybody. So that's exactly what I did. And you were one of many on there. Actually, the first one from Ken Anderson School to respond. So I'm excited, especially as a fan of Mr. Kennedy, or Mr. Anderson, whatever we want to call him. I was excited because
You
I
have to
grew
say
up
it
in that
twice so it
era.
doesn't count.
Yeah, Anderson, Kennedy, Kennedy. um, Before we dive into questions, just to get it out the way, do you want to give any social media plugs, like your social media handles, merchandise, stuff like that, upcoming events?
Yeah, the social media one. I hopefully I can get these right now. All right.
Okay.
Follow me on Instagram at Rylie. That's RYLIE underscore Jackson JACKSON underscore YG for Young Gun. And then for X and Facebook and all the other stuff, that's just gonna be at the Young Gun RJ. That's nice and easy. And then you mentioned NDS. We are the best tag team going in the game. You can follow us on all socials simply at NDS Worldwide.
Okay. Any merchandise?
Just to come to the show, get that, baby.
Okay.
I
Okay.
do. I do have a store actually on Pro Wrestling Tees. It hasn't been updated in a couple of years, to be honest. So I kind of forgot about that one now that I think about it. But I do also have some Pro Wrestling Tees store. If you want some vintage Rylie Jackson merch, if you want the new hot off the press stuff, definitely come check out some shows.
Definitely. Um, it's nice to just get those out the way. I know most podcasts do it at the end, but everybody's listening at the beginning. They're always hot, ready to go. So I always like to get them done and over, and at the best part of the show. Um, I always also start off the podcast with the simple first question, and that's like, when did you discover wrestling?
Uh, Discover, man. I came out of the room and I threw a super kick at the doctor because he looked at me funny. No, my dad showed me wrestling when I was a kid, man. So as long as I can remember, I've had wrestling in my life. So it's just been always something I wanted to do. I took like a brief little hiatus, I think, probably in like middle school at some point, I think. And then it was right around like the CM Punk era where he was really, dropping pipe bomb stuff where I kind of got back into wrestling.
Yeah,
And like I said, from day one, I wanted to be a wrestler. So like the love was always there. It just wasn't cool for a while. But I mean, who's to be the judge of that? I don't care. It's what I like. I mean, it's proven to be one of the greatest sports in the world. I mean, it's bigger than it ever has been.
Yep,
So yeah, it's always been in my life. I've been wrestling with I mean, growing up in Minnesota, I mean, it's snowy here. And so my dad and I'd be jumping off the ladder into the snowbank onto him and stuff. So it's always been in my life, man.
definitely. It's
He's,
something I
and then
can
that's how
relate
I
to.
found the academy too. Sorry, I didn't mean
You're good.
I ramble sometimes.
Hey, that's fine. That's what we're here for, is to both ramble. No, I was just gonna say I can definitely relate. My father's the whole reason I'm even talking right now is he was like, kid, go talk to wrestlers. If you love wrestling, go talk to them. If you
Yeah.
his thought, I guess, was if you're not gonna get in the ring, if you're not gonna train, at least go interact with that world that you love so much. And I was like, I mean, that's smart. Can't argue with it. And this is right now cheaper than trying to go to wrestling school. Not saying it's like ever out of the picture, but it's more financially plausible right now.
And again, that's the beauty of, wrestling. Might not be cool to some people, but it's certainly got a job for anybody in any shape or form,
Exactly.
whether it's podcast, refereeing, managing, um, commentary, production, anything, if you're not a performer, you can find a way to be a performer without being a performer. So that's the beauty of the sport, man. Why I love it so
And
much.
it's definitely something that like once you figure out how to get involved, it's easy to maintain being involved. Because like at first trying to get I don't want to say through the door, but like get into conversations with people is not easy. But once you build a catalog or make build reps, it makes it easy and gets more consistent.
Hmm.
Is that something you could say like also about wrestling itself?
Oh, for sure, man. Um, like con consistency is key for everything. Like for example, you can be wrestling for 10 years, but if you're having one match every year, that's going to be about 10 matches, and you're not like when they say like you get better every time you wrestle, you're not going to get better if you wrestle one time every year. You need to be consistent with it. Stay in the gym, stay at the wrestling school, wherever that is, and then watch your stuff back, watch what's going on around you, watch the stuff that happened before you, because that's how you're going to be successful in this business, like any other business, as you were saying.
Earlier, you mentioned like getting involved with training. And I'm guessing you were going to say it's through your dad.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
How'd
Well,
that go?
I actually before be I actually like my whole plan was to wait till I got out of high school and go to Black and Brave in Iowa because that was the one closest to me of relevance that I knew about. But then I went to a local promotion. I mean, I didn't even know local wrestling was a thing at this time. I've only seen like WWE, TNA, Ring of Honor, stuff like that. So I was like, oh, whoa. And I go there and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And they're like, oh, you want to train here? We could get you in and ready within like a month and you'd be in there wrestling. I was like, oh, sweet, let's go. What do I got to do? Long story short, sophomore Rylie Jackson got $1,500 and gave this guy who couldn't even walk to train me and had some random person train me. And then, long story short, what we talked about never actually happened. And they wanted more money just for like training number two. And I was like, I don't think so. And then so then I'm like, oh shit, I guess I'll go back to the normal plan. And then that was when my dad heard a radio spot and heard about the academy. And I was like, this seems a little more legit. Obviously, I mean, me too. I was a huge fan of Kennedy. Uh, and even Sean Devari was with the school at that time too. It's like those are the people I grew up watching, and I got to have a whole consultation. And me, junior year of high school, I'm thinking this is the coolest thing ever. So that's like that. Then that's when I joined. I was in the first class at the academy, And like I said, my whole plan was to do it after I graduated high school, but I was still in high school and I got to do it. So it was like, I was like, oh man, I'm ahead of my schedule so far, which is, what you want. You got to set those goals and try to get ahead of them. So I
Yep.
thought that was pretty cool. And I mean, I'm so grateful for it to this day. And I still go
You
4 buildings
still
later.
go to his academy?
Yeah, yeah. Not as much uh since, I graduated now. So I go just to just stay tuned with all my stuff. So I'll go once or twice a week. But
Okay.
still, I've been through all four different venues that they've had. So it's cool to see all the new people coming up and just seeing like how many people aren't around anymore even.
What was that first like experience or class like?
Uh Man, it was the coolest thing ever. I met a lot of cool people that, we all had the same goals in mind. And then a lot more went into it than I thought there would be. There's a lot more, you know, strength and conditioning stuff doing before even getting into the ring. Where, when I did that first try at this, man, I just got right into the ring. So it was completely different. I was like, all right, this is gonna be fun. And man, it was a little overwhelming at first too, because here's two guys who have done it at the highest level, and then about I think there was like 50 of us at the in the first class of all these other people all trying to do the same thing and trying to get the reps in. Um, but man, you figured out real quick which guys were gonna stick around. I mean, you had the guys that man we just stay there until like 3 in the morning some nights, showing up 5 days a week and watching pay-per-views there, all that type of stuff, man. Just because like it, it's where we all wanted to be. So
Yeah.
it makes work more too when you see everybody else and you learn their stories and just makes you want to do it more because yeah.
What was the initial like reaction when you got to meet either Ken Anderson or Sean Devari?
Man, it was just I don't know. They're just I had my consultation with Ken, and I was a huge asshole myself, so um, it was just cool seeing how down to earth he was, and we're both Packers fans, so we talked about football a little bit. Yeah, it was just I couldn't I would play as this guy in a video game, and then now I'm getting to talk to him and learn how to do what he does.
Yeah,
So yeah.
definitely can understand. I had the feeling. A couple weeks ago, I got to talk to Sabu for the first time, which was insane because like growing up, you watch Sabu. I played with Sabu action figures and stuff, made Sabu action figures, and then getting to have a conversation with him was crazy. Definitely a surreal moment because it's like this is a legend. I watched you on TV, like so I can only imagine like actually getting to go in and talk to him and work with somebody like that.
Mhm.
Um, so as far as training with, how long did you actually spend in training before you got to do your first match?
To before my first match, I started training in November of 2016, and then I had my first match September of 2017.
Okay.
So just under a year, just under a year of training, and then I graduated January of 2018. So then it took me just under a little over a year to get my graduation and just under a year to have my first match. And
Are
then since
there
then, man, it's just nonstop.
are there any like minimal requirements as far as like training time before you get in the ring? No.
No, man, not really. Um, it depends where you go, obviously. Like at the
Yeah.
academy, we we harp on the basics. The basics were harped on, and if you gotta be able to have a great, like a good like match in front of nobody. That goes into it, and because if you can work nobody, you can work everybody.
Yeah.
Um, so what you'll have a few just like camp matches we call them, and then that will, once you can do that and things are comfortable with that. Some people waited till graduation. Some people got the okay before that. So then they were, me personally, I think you have to learn how to wrestle in front of a crowd in order to, if you're gonna get that stamp of approval. That's my opinion. Like you got to be able to work a crowd too, because that's the name of the game.
It's the most important
So
part.
yeah, you work a few camp matches in front of just the other students and obviously the coaches. And then once they feel comfortable with everything you can do, they'll give you the green light. And a lot of time, how you do in those matches, plus the promos and everything else, that's what leads to the graduation. Um, but some people also were like, I'd rather get my graduation before wrestling. So like everybody was different.
Was Ken Anderson still like active? Like I don't want to say active because he still wrestles obviously, but like was he still in Impact and stuff like that whenever you started?
He was not in Impact. He was actually with NWA though.
Okay.
So he was already out of Impact at that time. It was right after he got out of Impact, I'm pretty sure. And then he was with the NWA once they got their reemergence. That's where he was with, which is cool because then I actually got to do some backstage stuff with NWA because of that. So
That's crazy.
yeah,
You
it
want
was
to tell
just
us a little bit about that?
yeah, absolutely, man. It was just cool. Because then at this time I also had some backstage stuff with the WWE, so I got to see how they do things. And then once you go over to NWA, it's a whole nother animal, man. They'd be taping a few different shows all in one day. So then you see like, man, these are basically like us doing camp matches, and they're doing it right here on their normal show. And then, I got to do a cool little thing, a cool little segment with Ricky Starks and question mark, I believe. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. Um, I was under a mask, so if y'all ever go back and watch man, I wish I could remember what art they practiced. Um, Damian Sandow and question mark practiced some sort of great martial art, and I was their new trainee until
Okay.
that Don Ricky Starks showed up.
Okay.
So if y'all find that, you can find Rylie Jackson under the mask.
That's
And
cool.
I actually just repped that shirt at the gym yesterday too. What a funny coincidence.
So like coming out of training, graduating, did you initially just go straight for singles, or did you know somewhere along the way you'd want to like do tag stuff?
Nah, I was singles right away, man. I was my own person. Uh, and I was good at it too, man. We have a local company over here, Pro Wrestling Battleground, and they were the place I give a lot of credit for helping me develop, who Rylie Jackson was, and he helped me get comfortable with myself in the ring. And I was their mid card championship champion for over a year, and that's where I got to do some really cool stuff. And you know, I never thought I'd be doing tag stuff until I got sent over to England with Levy Cruz, and then the rest of the history, man.
How how many tours of Europe have you done?
Two now.
Two. What would
Yeah,
you say like the main differences are between here and there?
man, are we talking wrestling wise or culture wise?
Uh, we'll do both. You start with wrestling and we'll go to culture.
Yeah. The wrestling is a lot more mat based, which I love, man. Like I love like the world of sports style wrestling. And when we went over there, we actually got to stay with the Knight family. So that'd be Soraya's family,
Yep.
and we had to stay at their little academy. And man, we got to travel and do their shows with them, and they were doing shows. Um, so like let's say Monday was usually an off day, so that'd be laundry day. But then Tuesday and Wednesday we'd be having camp shows, sometimes two shows in a day, just at like different little resorts. And then like Thursday would be a travel day, and then Friday and Saturday there'd be two of the bigger shows, and then Sunday and Monday were the off days. So man, it was like staying over staying over there for a month. It you know you wrestling multiple shows a day sometimes, but you're wrestling almost every day, and it just gave you that like this rush of man, I'm living the dream right
Yeah.
now. And they have that they focused on mat based wrestling and how to tell a story with that, and I think it's made me such a better wrestler just getting to stay and learn with them when I was so new into this.
When like about when was like when were you over there is what I'm trying to say.
The first time was 20, 2018,
Okay.
and then stayed a month over there, made a lot of great connections. And then the second time was 2019, and then um went didn't just strictly stay with the Knights that time. We went and stayed with a couple guys we met the previous time we were over there, and we went and kind of did our own thing, and got to see progress and got to work with Marty Jones and Marty Saint. So
There we go, man.
yeah, sorry about that, man. As I was saying though, yeah, got to work with Marty Jones and Donnie Saint, and then travel to Ireland. So wrestle over there, and man, it was so cool. That one was in 2019. Actually got back March of 2019, and then a week later the world shut down.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I almost got stranded in England. Hindsight, I kind of wish I would have.
I can't argue with that. I mean, COVID was something back then. Um,
Another time.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like I had a question. Um,
It
I
happens
was,
another time, bro. Don't worry.
um,
You
I was
mentioned
gonna.
COVID, man. I kind of want to go off that. I'm not. I
Go
don't like.
ahead.
I don't want to like weird and like talk about weird stuff. But like, I actually like. I'm actually very sounds weird, but I'm very grateful for COVID because I feel like it when the world shut down and wrestling went away for a little bit. It helped me, I think, realize how complacent I got and how happy I was with what I was doing. And, I was pretty successful early, early on, and I was doing a lot of cool things so young into my career. And, I was the top dog around Minnesota. And then, like, I just realized once I lost it, like, how actually, how much more effort I could actually be putting in and how I realized there's nothing else I want to do in life other than wrestle at the highest level. And it just helped me get in the best, at that time, the best shape of my life and, just really get a new work ethic driven into myself, man. So I'm very grateful for that.
I think like me personally, I could also agree. Like it definitely was it made you change how like you thought about things. Cause I mean, COVID was scary, so it was like you never know what could happen. And like it was the it was waters we'd never been in before. Like
Right.
especially
Never in
modernly.
my, never in
Like
my life. Never in my
yeah.
lifetime.
So, and it was just insane. So it definitely was like a reality check and a way to say, okay, maybe like it definitely made me change things that I was doing at the time for the better. So I can understand that thought process and the gratitude 100%. Like it
And I
definitely
think it
makes
helped.
sense.
I think it helped like the business itself, like grow so much more too, and like get better and kind of weed out the shitty people and you know
Yeah.
have the people that are in there and you realize who's really working hard and you know who really wanted it because some people never came back from that and they never showed back up.
Yep.
So yeah, it's crazy how the world goes sometimes.
I remember what I was gonna ask. I was gonna ask, like, when you was over there, I'm pretty sure in Europe, that was when the British indie scene was like at its peak, wasn't it?
Uh, it, I mean, I realized how much different it is than America. I mean, the crowds were insane. I have never heard so much crowd reaction. And like, I'm a very like when I'm in the ring, I interact with the crowd a lot, but I
Mhm.
had never heard a crowd react on an indie platform the way they were reacting over there, and all the chants they would have, and just like it was just insane, man. Just a completely different atmosphere, and that's a high like no other.
Have you been able to travel to any other countries or anything like that?
Yeah, Canada, obviously. I mean, that's the closest to Minnesota, Canada. So I've done a lot over in Canada. And then, ob obviously, like Northern Ireland and Wales. But yeah, right now, I really want to get over to Mexico and Japan. I
Definitely.
think Mexico and like Mexico sooner, I think.
Okay. Do you, is it like the lucha style that you think attracts you to? Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, like I'm not, I don't do too much flips myself, but I consider myself very much like a chameleon. I can work with any style, and I feel like I already am pretty high on myself when it comes to what I feel like I can do when it, you know, I've gotten to do some cool things, and you know, working with Gringo and Erez at the Mall of America, and being like,
Yep.
man, I just held my own with them. And then there's also two young kids from Chicago, Magical and Septical, that do some crazy stuff. And I got to have do some fun stuff with them too. And I was like, man, if I got the chance to like actually like learn from, you know, learn over there like how to actually do real lucha and stuff, I feel like I'd really be successful over there, man.
So like
And I
if
feel like
you
it'd just
had,
be another way to just another tool to, you know, put in my belt, you know,
yeah,
because I think in order to, if you're gonna be the best, you gotta be able to, you know, have a little something of everything.
definitely. Like if you had to categorize your style, like what would you say that would be?
Uh, my style, I'll I'll talk a lot of shit and I'll back it up every single time. The ring is kind of like my science project, if that makes sense, like chemistry. Um, you know, I got a lot of chemistry when it comes to the crowd, and then in the ring, I'm just like I'm scientific, man. Like I'll use the ring as a weapon. I'll just find any way possible to win the match because at the end of the day, you know, you get more money. That's how you get farther in this business. Um, that's how the pretty girl in the front row sees ya. You know, that's how you win championships.
Yep.
And so honestly, I think that would be my style. And I think I'd also have to say I'm kind of a tag team specialist myself too. If you guys haven't seen NDS matches, I definitely, and this, I'm talking to like everybody, watching this. Like, y'all should really check out NDS because I'd like to say we're one of the best tag teams in the game right now. Um, and I mean, yeah,
How did you go about finding Levy, and how did you form NDS?
he is another academy kid. So I was in first class, and then I believe he was in the third or fourth,
Hmm.
and so him too, singles wrestler. Um, I've always been a little misunderstood, so the crowd kind of boos me sometimes, but he's very much got a little baby face in him, and the crowd just loves him. Like he's got this like baby face, pretty boy, blah blah blah. Blah. Crowd loves him, right? So and he's always like you know one of the top fan favorites. Crowd always hated me, and then we got sent to England together. So it's just the two of us that got sent over there for the month. And then being the two Americans, we often got put together in tag matches against people, and we realized like, damn, we have some pretty good chemistry, and like we're doing good, like we're doing really good as a team. Like you wouldn't be able to tell that we've never done it before. People couldn't tell we haven't done it before. So it's while we were over in England where we actually saw like, bro, we should do this because man, if you think about it in wrestling, just like what we're talking about, is like there's everybody everybody's reaching for the same thing, right? And there's infinite singles wrestlers, right? But then when it comes to good tag team wrestling, there's no, it's almost like a handful. It's almost just like two handfuls of like legit tag teams, for a while, right?
Right.
Especially in Minnesota, there's none at all. So like we're like, why are we gonna keep like competing with all this when we can become a team and we have less to compete with and then, like, man, I've always loved taking wrestling too. Like the Machine Guns, always loved them in TNA. Hardy Boys, man, Edge and Christian, DX, man, all the tag teams. I'm like, I love tag team wrestling, and it's just a lost art, I think. So yeah, that's how we became a team. And then, funny enough, um, it was while we were still at home in Minnesota and stuff, and we were just training together. He hit me up one day and he asked about like, hey, do you know so and so? It was my grandpa, and I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then turns out we're actually related. He's my cousin. So it's just like
That's
wrestling.
crazy.
I didn't even know him before wrestling. So then we were related. We always wrestled against each other. We got sent to England. We got paired together, and then man, we haven't stopped tagging since then.
Okay. Um, can I ask what NDS stands for?
Oh, bro, that's the thing. If you don't know, you ain't in the club.
Fair enough. Okay. I've tried to find it, and I
It's a that's the thing. It's a lifestyle. We like to the what NDS does is we stimulate the mind, right? We try to
okay.
stimulate the mind. So we're trying to stimulate the mind and get you to get your mind flowing and you know think of it.
Okay. I
You
like
watch
it.
us, listen to us, live the life, and then you'll know.
Okay. I'll have to pay more attention, and then I'll have to let you know when I figure it out, or if I figure it out. Um, s- some fun like spots I've got to see you do, or like from doing research, I've seen you do. Um, I think on the biggest scale, you was on AEW. You did a dark match. What was it like working with the Dark Order guys? And did you know the three other guys that you was paired with, or did they just throw y'all together?
Yeah, man, crazy story. So I thought the Dark Order was super cool, man. I was
100%.
super grateful for the spot. Um, and I actually wasn't even booked to be there that day. It was day of. I was at the shoot job, and I was kind of bummed out. Like I was talking to one of my friends and telling them like, bummed out that I wasn't gonna be there. And then all of a sudden I got an email and I was like, holy shit. So then I just left work, didn't say anything, just left. They're like, can you be at the Target Center at noon? This was at like 11 o'clock. I was like, yeah. I just, man, I jetted there, parked at a parked at a parking block, parking ramp, like 3 miles away, and I'm just running with my suitcase to the venue, trying to get there in time. Um, and then I got in there, and yeah, I knew one of the guys. I knew the system. I knew him. He was another academy guy, and um, yeah. Then there was Adam Grace. He's a Wisconsin guy, so I knew him. It was Kit Sackett, who I did not know at the time. But now I know him, and I'm a fan of that guy. He's real good. But yeah, but I only at the time I only knew two of them, so that's why we lost. I didn't lose; they lost. So
They
technically, I
lost.
still have lost in AEW.
What was like? Did you get to have any interaction before the Dark Order guys before you went out there, or was it kind of like, hey, go out there, do whatever, and
Nah, I talked to him in the locker room like 10 minutes before, like I met them like 10 minutes before like the show started. So I guess pre-show in this case started. And yeah, that was my first time meeting them. But they were super cool and super cool afterwards. Uh, Jerry, Jer- Jerry Lynn said I looked really good taking a back body drop. So that was my highlight of the night. So something and then ever since, and that was the first time I had ever been given that move as well. So, I try I somehow always find my way getting hit with another back body drop ever since then. Because
it's
Jerry Lynn
because it
thought it
looks
was
so good. Jerry Lynn told
exact.
everybody.
Yeah.
Um, another doing research. You've done work with Defy, another big indie,
Yes.
and Prestige, another decent, size indie. Both those shows you work the same tag team, the Midnight Heat, um,
hmm
with Ricky Gibson, and I always lose the other guy's name. What was those
Eddie
matches like?
Pearl,
Eddie Pearl?
man, it was crazy. It was crazy. So Defy was first, and we had started to make kind of a little rumbling in the Pacific Northwest in Washington. We wrestled, we became the first ever without a cause tag team champions. They ran out of Everett, Washington.
Okay.
And then 5CC was the first company that brought us in. And they ran out of Birmingham, no, Bellingham, Washington. So we had for a couple months now been wrestling out of that place. And then we saw that one of the weekends we were there, we were like, oh, 5CC's running, Without a Cause is running. And then we saw Defy is running too. And I'm like, bro, we should see what we can do. We hit up the guy, and man, they had a spot for us. And dude, like to tell it was close to like when I mentioned the England crowds, that Washington Hall crowd was close to that, man. It was insane. And it was just cool to hear the maturation process, right? Because we came out and there was maybe like we thought we were like I said, man, we were making a stir. We thought we people knew us, but we come out and only about it sounds like crickets, man. Like maybe three people knew who we were. Like, you know, nobody really knew us. And then as the match starts and it's that feeling out process, and then you just see the as we do something kind of like, oh, oh, and then like we're like, oh, we got him. And like I
Nice.
remember, man, we came through the curtain like, oh, it's gonna be one of these nights. And then sure enough, man, we got him, and like that crowd reaction was just, it was cool to hear how like that's when you hear how you can catch the crowd. Like start from nothing and then build it up to something crazy. And then I would love to go back there.
Was
And
the
then
like yeah, that's what I was gonna ask next.
for yeah, for prestige, that was gotta give credit to our boy Sonico with that one, man. He has been he's someone we met out in Washington. He made the Lucha Ghoul. You don't know him, man, look him up. All you guys, he's unreal. Anyways, he just put in a good word for us, and they gave us a shot. Obviously, Midnight Heat knew who you were, so they approved, and then we got to go out to Montana. And I remember, funny, they were talking like, "Yeah, this is just a house show for us, so it's not one of our biggest shows." And then they had like 400 people there, and like, "This is your house show? I want to go to a real show." uh, so yeah, that's how that worked out. And I don't know, man. I would like to face the Midnight Heat again because they got lucky twice, and I don't know. I think if we had one more shot, anywhere, I think we could beat them.
Okay. Um, NDS also got to compete against MXM, Mansoor,
Yup.
and Mace Madden.
Yes, sir.
What was that interaction like? That they're an interesting duo, man.
Yeah, man. It was cool. Sometimes guy guys that have been at the highest level kind of get a bad rap, like, oh, they don't ever want to do anything, or, you never know what you're going to get. But these guys were just so down to earth, so giving, and just had great advice and like looking out and like just getting to talk to them. And they're just like, man, we were given something that we were supposed to fail with, and then they didn't have anything for us. So when we came out here, man, of course we're gonna want to wrestle and do stuff because we want to get over what they couldn't get over. So that was just really cool getting to learn from them, and that was actually Levy's first match back after breaking his arm. So he was out for 8 months with a broken arm, and then that was his first match back. So some first match back.
So like, okay, him getting injured, like obviously you guys are on a roll. You're a hot tag team. Getting injured does as the other guy. How does that? What is that like mentally?
um, it's it's a what's the next type of thing. Like, all right, well, now there goes this booking, because they want this tag team. So now you have to start to look at your calendar and be like, what am I gonna have to replace? Who am I gonna have to see if they still got something for me? So it's kind of a going through my head is like, what's next? And then with that, I was like, well, I gotta try to carry NDS on my back for a little bit. Kind of keep it relevant and focus on Rylie Jackson and getting back into that doing a lot more single stuff and staying on top of my game so that when Letty got back, I could kind of hold the weight a little bit and then kind of ease him back into it. And it was just like I can't let this slow me down.
Okay.
It definitely, I'll say, definitely was a down year compared to what we were doing before. And I think a lot of it had to do with the lost time because of the injury.
What's the bounce back been like so far?
Man, I feel like the bounce back has been great. I mean, he's 100% now, and I feel like for the last couple of months now, each match we've been having lately has just been kind of getting us hungry, like getting us hungry again. I think we're kind of back in the mindset of like back, when we were doing Defy and Prestige, kind of. We were like, all right, we're at the top of our game, but then that injury happened, and we had to kind of start from scratch. And I feel like we're we're the dogs at the bottom of the hill. So if you ever heard that, it's like the dogs at the top of the hill are never as hungry as the dogs on the bottom of the hill, because now we're trying to climb our way back up and get people talking about us again. So I feel like we're clicking better than ever. I feel like we're both on the same page now, and 2025 is going to be a crazy year. I think we may do a lot of cool things. And I feel like it's going to be our best year yet. I know it is going to be. I feel like y'all are in for something cool.
Nice, exciting. It's always nice to see, especially when tragedy strikes, like an injury, for a team to be able to recover and come back stronger than ever. So it
Mm.
looks like you guys are doing that. Um, upon doing research, I noticed you do a lot of spots for First Wrestling, which is they did the Mall of America show. Um,
Mm.
I also noticed you've done singles action with a couple AEW stars like Dante Martin and Orange Cassidy. What were those matches like, especially, wrestling guys that are on TV?
Well, well, Dante Martin is just another Sunday kid. I was beating him up before beating up Dante Martin was cool.
Okay.
Him and his brother, man, they ran away from Rylie Jackson to AEW. Um, Nah, but no, getting to work with them, especially Top Flight. We had a match with them at uh Treasure Island, a casino out here,
Okay.
and that match meant a lot because before, like when the world shut down at first, they they were the tag team. They were the tag team that, like, when we were decided, like, yeah, we're gonna become a tag team. They were who we were like in camp with, training with. They helped us so much with like the fundamentals of tag team wrestling, and just like helped us come up with some cool stuff, man. And we get to train with them a lot. And we were supposed to wrestle them on a real show, and then the world shut down, so that match got canceled. And then wrestling starts to come back, and they get signed. So then we never got to have that match. And then finally we get to have it after, man, I swear, like 3 or so years since that match was supposed to happen. We finally got to have that match, and it was just cool to. I mean, they've always been amazing, but since being there, they 10 times that, right?
Yeah.
And just learning from them was the best. And then Orange Cassidy, man, I don't care, like, part like we're talking about when Russ going back on, like, saying, oh, wrestling wasn't cool, like, in middle school and stuff, and you got to that age, and people will hate on it for certain things. Man, I don't care what anybody says. Orange Cassidy is one of the best wrestlers I've ever been in the ring with. From like what he does into the ring to like how he gets the crowd behind him and stuff, and getting to be across the ring from him and just like feeding off the energy they would give, and just like going on his mark, and like it was a learning experience unlike no other. And I got some really great advice, and he had a lot of cool things to say, and it like opened my mind up in a way I never really thought about, and just really got me thinking on how to, you know, present myself better, you know. So that was by far one of the coolest matches I got to have, was with Orange Cassidy, because I learned a lot from him, just about how to present myself better and stuff.
is his style something that like is hard to go up against in the ring, or is it something that like once you understand it, it's easy?
I can connect with any style, man. But no, because he's just a professional. Like he's a professional, and like then what we're trying to do out there is get the crowd invested. And as soon as he steps through the curtain, the crowd is invested.
Yeah.
And me, I feed off like I love working with the crowd and stuff. So wrestling a guy like that, it's just man, unreal. And like you learn wrestling him, you learn the exact moments to do each thing because of how much he has them in there.
Okay. Um, Sticking with first wrestling, you did the Mall of America show. Um, First off, that's crazy just because I mean the first Nitro back in the day, Mall of America, it's historical. Um, what was it like getting on that show and then facing those three guys, excuse me, Gringo Loco, is it Arez, and then
Yep.
Ryan Cruz? Like, what was that
hmm
like?
Well, that was actually my second time at the mall. So I was at their first show they did at the mall too. So that last one was year number three.
Oh,
I was at the first one, and I was not at the second one because we were at Prestige actually. So
okay,
that's why I wasn't at the second mall show, but I was at the third one too. And the first one, it was surreal. What just because the only other place to do it was WCW, and I mean there is people on all every single level. Even if the mall has like 4 or 5 levels, there's people on every level. So you have people looking up at you on all different levels. There's a big like jumbotron behind that had it like live streaming and stuff. Um, so it felt like the biggest show I've ever been on. Like
okay.
that's what it felt like. But you know, then fast forward to this past year now for year number three. Um, I felt going into that one a lot more confident than I did that first one, and I felt more ready for it. And I feel like I proved that in the ring too, that I was more ready for it this time around. And working with Erez and Gringo, I mean, dude, like I'm talking about how I want to learn lucha. Like you ain't gonna get no better lucha than that. I mean, those are two.
Gringo's insane.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm trying to be like, man. Like the things he could do and like the things we got to do, I just is never done before. And you know, it's like one of those things like, oh, I can go with anybody, man, because they were a completely different style, and our crowd around here just fucking loves it.
Okay. Um, First wrestling, like I can tell you do a lot of spots with them. Is that's like a company that you could see yourself doing a lot of work with in the future?
I mean, first wrestling is home, man. I mean, Eric Cannon was one of the opening trainers at the academy as well. So, I mean, he helped shape my career for sure, and it was always a goal to get on first wrestling, WrestlePalooza, and since my first show there, I've been on almost every one since then, unless like something else is going on. I've been on every single one. Um, and we got another show coming up December 5th at the Uptown VFW. If any of y'all listen in the Minnesota area, or honestly have never checked out a first show, I mean, I definitely think you guys should come out because it's the best wrestling you can get in Minnesota for sure. We have an amazing fan base, even though they treat me like Dookie sometimes. I don't care. Their opinion doesn't matter that much to me. Um, but yeah, first wrestling will always have a spot in my heart. But then again, like I said, man, it's about marketing and you gotta put yourself in the best places to succeed. So, um, that's that. Who knows? Of course, I'll As long as they want Riley Jackson will be there. Because Riley Jackson can go wherever Riley Jackson can succeed and wherever the next opportunity is.
Okay. With that said, lately, or I should say most recently, WWE had some big news with the WWE ID system. As an independent wrestler, do you think that is something to keep your eye on and something to strive for?
How can you not? I mean, I don't care what anybody says. That's the reason we're all doing this. Like that was what we all grew up on, and that's always the destination. Like that's where the destination is. Um, and I think it's huge because for a while there, it seemed like they're kind of getting away from independent wrestlers, and it was scary because like, man, this is the place I loved where I always wanted to be, and now they don't want wrestlers. What's going on? So I think it's a super cool opportunity, and I'm definitely trying to keep my eye on it. And I hope that something can come with my school. I just think like it's just gonna make wrestling grow and like make the independent wrestling scene grow and get so much more eyes on, you know, the best talent in the world. I personally, I feel like our school should be up there because I think, man, in Minnesota, man, we got the best wrestlers right now. I feel like I find it hard to find another place that has so many like top guy ready people that we have here. Um, like there's just so much good talent here, and our school has just done a very great job at putting out some talent. And I hope that we can get some eyes too. And the coolest thing about those guys that are getting it, congrats to them. Um, Now they have the biggest eyes in the world looking at them, and since they're looking at them, I mean, it takes two to tango. So there might be somebody who wouldn't normally get a look at is wrestling one of these guys, and that guys or girls, and now they got the eyes on them. So I mean, I just think
Yeah.
overall, it's one of the coolest things in wrestling right now. Obviously, it's like Justin said, that we don't know where it's going, but I'm definitely excited to see how it goes.
Something that like I've discussed on here before is like I think the most intriguing part about it is the fact that not only it highlights the prospect, but it highlights where they noticed the prospect. So whether that's the training school or the promotion they saw them at, it highlights
Yeah,
them too. So it helps. It's going to help that promotion or that indie, um, just because they're also being spotlighted by the biggest wrestling company on the planet. So like it's gotta. There's no way it doesn't help not only indie wrestling but indie wrestlers.
for sure. And I feel like it should just motivate everybody. I feel like it should motivate everybody to work hard. Because to me, I look at it as like, man, my goal just got a lot closer. I just gotta find a way to make bigger strides now. Um, so I don't know how anybody can look at that as a negative for our store, honestly.
Definitely. And with going off that, like going forward, if you had to guess or if you had a goal, what would you say is next for Rylie Jackson?
Um, Man, what what's next? I wanna get out of the state a lot more. 2025. I would have to I keep track of all my matches. I'd have to look, but I'm pretty sure this past year was the most I've ever been just in Minnesota. So I think definitely want to get out again a lot more next year, even if that is just hopping in cars. Um, so definitely want to do that. And I mean, obviously, I want to get a chance to sign a contract, man.
Okay. Um,
Hopefully, national stuff. Yeah.
as somebody in the Chicagoland area, is it somebody, do you visit around here a lot? Because I mean, Minnesota is just right up the road.
Yeah, yeah. I've gotten to do some work with freelance. And then the first place I ever wrestled there was Kaiju. I don't even think they're around anymore. It
Okay.
was like it was a Kaiju Attack Wrestling. I don't even know if they're around anymore. But then I don't go out there enough, unfortunately. Do a lot more in Wisconsin than Chicago. But I love Chicago, love freelance. So hopefully we can go out there again soon.
Because like I don't want to say I went to my first indie here in Chicago because I'm from West Virginia. I moved here when I was a kid. But a lot of like the indies I've seen are like in more of like northern Illinois rather than the Chicago area. So like, but like just last week, I think I went to my first Chicago indie. Um, and you brought up Minnesota having some of the best wrestlers, and in my head, I was like, I could see it because there was a few guys from Minnesota there, Wisconsin there, like so like I could say that like maybe the Midwest has like the brightest crop of talent. Um, I
For
also talked
sure.
to a lot of guys in Atlanta, so like I could say maybe those guys could give us a run for our money, but the Midwest is hot with talent right now.
Oh,
So like
for sure, man.
I was
I mean,
definitely
think about it too. Minnesota. I'm gonna stay firm on this. Man, we were a breeding ground
yes,
for pro wrestling back in the day, man.
Kurt
It got
Hennig,
it
Rick
started
Rude,
exactly, man. So I mean, I feel like it's just in our blood, and I mean that legitimately. I feel like it's just wrestling is in our blood, and the cream of the crop is going to be around here. But yeah, there's a lot of great talent, even in Iowa and Wisconsin as well, and of course Chicago, Illinois, I guess.
yeah. But I mean, honestly, even somebody that lives in Illinois, I think we just care about
Chicago.
Chicago. Um, just a fun question, I guess, is as a competitor, as a performer, do you have any inspirations? And if so, who would your biggest inspirations be?
HB Shizzle, baby. Of
Okay.
course, man. That's why I use the Swisher Sweet Chin music. Got to.
Okay. I think I
Um,
understand why the name is the name.
yep. Uh, so yeah, so obviously Shawn Michaels, and then I mentioned the Boys earlier. Um, and then I don't wrestle like him, but Rey Mysterio, and RVD were two of my favorites too back in the day.
Okay. Have you been able to wrestle like anybody that you'd consider a legend, like that you've seen on TV?
Well, I mean, my first one I ever had was against my coach,
Okay.
Ken. So that match was super cool to me because I was a huge fan, and then he was my trainer. So getting to wrestle him was really cool.
Probably insane.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. On like it is back then too, like oh green as goose shit, man. Like I wasn't ready for that, but it was just cool good to do that. But that was definitely one of my favorites. Um, and then the Silas Young was another one that I actually
Okay.
really enjoyed. Because we went for a solid, I think it was the first time I went for like solid like 2025, just like working and man, the dude can go. So getting to wrestle with him, and it's like I felt like this was that's where I felt like all right, I can go with anybody. I mean, this guy has been around forever, man, and done it at a high level, and so that was a really cool one too.
Gotcha. Um, Before we go, I always like to ask another fun question with no right or wrong answer. Um, and it's Mount Rushmore. We all have a Mount Rushmore. Um, I think the most important thing is the why, though. So, what four guys and why?
Okay. Well, I'm gonna put Shawn Michaels on there, of course. Um, I mean, from I think just how he from where he started to where he finished, and I mean, in ring performer wise, like I don't think there's a better person, like in ring wise. And then I'd put The Rock up there as well, and Stone Cold for how they could just, cat. I mean, they're the biggest money makers in the industry, so it's hard to not put them on that list. Um, and then I think you got to put Cena on there too
Okay.
for how long like he was the breadwinner for the whole company. Like
Yeah.
I think
For their low
like it,
point, he was their guy.
exactly. Um, yeah, like that's not, he's not gonna work circles around people, but I mean, for how much money he made, what he's done outside, and how he's always remained, Todd, you'd have to put Cena in there. But like, then how do you leave Ric Flair out? Like
Yeah.
that's a very tough question. Like, that's the cool thing about this sport too is, Mount Rushmore could be about four mountains at this point.
Well, I told a guy yesterday, I was like, I could probably have about eight of them with all different guys on them and justify every single one of them with nobody doubled up or anything.
Like there's just not so many, but there's been like these specific points in time where like you'd have to put they did this, so like they have to be on there. Look at what they did with this. So yeah, it's a
Yeah.
tough question, but Shawn Michaels is gonna be on every list.
I can't disagree, especially with the influence I think he's had on modern wrestling. It's hard to argue that because
Mm,
whether it's just as simple as a super kick, I know it was done before him, but nobody has done it better than him.
hmm it became a finish with him, and he was really in that crop of guys that was kind of the changing point of the industry, where it wasn't so much about the jacked bodybuilders, and it was more so about the like flamboyant characters.
And I think one of the coolest thing about Michaels is somebody like the first half of his career, and then he gets injured in the second half of his career. It's almost like two different people, but with the same caliber of uh
Perform like
performer.
didn't miss a
And
beat, miss a beat.
nope, even at the end when he's fighting Taker at Mania, like still putting on the best match on a card
Mhm.
at both of their ages, kind of insane.
I wish that I heard. I mean, I hated when it was his last one, but I wish it would have stayed his last match, to be honest. But
Yeah,
that's neither here nor
I think
there.
the less said about the DX Brother and Destruction match, the better. Um, I was excited to see it, but once it happened, I was like, man, I think we should have just kept it at Mania.
Yeah.
Um, what, since you are a tag guy, I'll throw a bonus one in there of a tag team Mount Rushmore.
Oh yeah. Motor City Machine Guns. They were, in my opinion, ahead of their time, man. It's cool to finally see them getting their flowers and getting to
20
do it.
years late.
I know, it's insane. Where like to even say that it's too late because like, but they still are in
Still
amazing
amazing.
shape and aren't missing a beat. So I mean, it's cool to see them there finally. So you'd have to put them in there. Um, Hardy Boys. I mean, everywhere they've gone, I believe they've won almost every tag team title there is. To be honest, they did that whole.
Except the AEW. That's the only one they haven't won.
That's the only. I guess that's the only one they never got. But you'd have to put them on there too because I mean they kind of seemed like they brought a new like taste to tag team wrestling too. Like they brought more of like like I don't know about like it's like a car like the car crash and like punk kind of like feel
Yeah.
to it. I feel like um
They gave a
so that's
modern extreme style of wrestling.
yeah, yeah. Entertainment wise, you put I think you gotta put DX in there. I think you
Okay.
gotta put DX in there. No, no, no. I mean, because I think that's more of a faction. I'm gonna go with that's more of a faction. Like I think that's more of a faction type thing. Um, rock, rock and roll express. Um, I think I have a good a fair shot at it. Because of when I mean they were
There we go.
yeah. So I mean rock and roll they were in the rock and roll express were like in the territory days. So I mean they were literally going all over the world without a contract. So I mean I feel like you got to put them on there. They and you see a lot of what the guys are doing now. I mean, more often than not, I know in the business, it's like, oh, let's do the rock and roll. So, I mean, if every tag team is saying, let's do the rock and roll, I have a feeling you got to have some sort of influence on what's going on nowadays. Um, and then that fourth one is tough. That fourth one is tough to be honest.
It's always the
Um,
fourth spot that stumps people.
yeah, I think there's a lot of people you could put in there. Like, I mean, the for sure, like guys like the Young Bucks could have a shot at that just because I mean, look at how much money they made without a major company behind them. I mean, they became millionaires without a major company. So before like AEW and stuff. So I mean, that's pretty huge. Um, FTR. I mean, match like rate wise, you got to put them in there. Um, I was always a fan of American Alpha too. I wish they were still going. I was sad when they
Oh
broke
my
up.
gosh, they
They
were the best.
solid, man. They were solid. Um, yeah, man. That fourth spot is hard. I'm not gonna lie. I can't say it was just one per one person, man. I can't figure out what that one beer money. I like beer money too.
I've seen them live, and it was an experience. Bobby Roode
Yeah.
and James Storm. I was in Huntington, West Virginia. I was probably 8, 9 years old. My dad almost fought beer money. They got my dad's girlfriend at the time cussed out James Storm. James Storm, I think, might have had a little bit too much to
Ah,
drink, but my dad threatened to beat up beer money.
that
And I'm not gonna lie, beer money would have whooped him.
I love I love that. I thought they were like too just too like they, they were just gonna kick your ass. Like they were just normal guys you'd see at the bar. Like I thought that was pretty cool. Um, you could throw them in there too.
I think the coolest thing about beer money was I loved America's Most Wanted, and like I was so sad when they split up, and then it was like James Storm brought Bobby Roode in, and it was like, okay, this is a spin on that, and
Yeah,
it's almost better, if not
yeah,
better. And I was like, okay, I like this.
yeah. I agree with that.
But last question is it's always the same, and it's more of can you give a word of advice for those who might want to be a wrestler or just personal life advice?
Yeah, if you honestly, man, for if you're trying to get in this business, just like don't let anybody tell you you can't. You know, you're gonna get in every way of life. You're gonna have negativity thrown at you. but it's how you maneuver that negativity really that's gonna make you excel. So if you're like down in a rut or something right now, just man, just keep grinding because put those blinders on and start grinding, man. The sparks will fly, and through the sparks, you're gonna mold a diamond. And we talked about it earlier, but there's just so much opportunity in this industry where I mean there's room for everybody. Wrestling really is for everybody. And it's bigger than it ever has been. I think it's only going to get bigger now. And it can excel you to so much more in life. I mean, and if you're in the industry right now too, like I think, you know, find a way to just get every single tool in your toolbox. You know, work on promos, work on presenting yourself, stay on top of gear, stay on top of merch, you know, and just work.
Okay. I like it. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. This was a fun episode, and I always, excuse me, leave the door open. So if you want to come on here for part two, I'd be more than happy to have you on here.
Hell yeah, man. Oh, hey, maybe next time we can get Levy and I on here too. We could have a little NDS action.
That was something I was
That'd be
thinking.
dope, man.
I was thinking
Um,
about that.
I appreciate you having me on. Woo!
We'll see you soon, man.